Welcome to the Shamrock Sports Talk Show with your hosts, Igor&Andy from Serbia, Europe, and Andy Vernon from Concord, New Hampshire. We are about pride, tradition, sweat, tears, victory, and determination of Boston sports. Give us a ring at 512-543-4662. Be sure to download the Try99 TV app on any smart device and subscribe to In the Zone Sports Talk Television. The cost is $4.95. Thank you in advance for your support. Now, let's get into the Shamrock Sports Talk Show. Hello, and thank you for tuning into the In the Zone Sports Talk Show Network, LLC, where you can find the best in sports talk television and radio shows. Mondays, check out the Just Us Sports Talk Show from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with your hosts, Kevin L. Dixon and Dana Clark. Then Tuesday, we have the Stars Talking Cowboys Sports Show from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern with your hosts, Sean Fox, K Boogie, and Cowboys Nikki. And on Wednesday, tune in for the Out the Block Sports Talk Show from 8:30 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with hosts Robert Lewis, Donna Hainsworth, and Brett Shields. Then meet up with us on Saturday for the Enhanced Sports Talk Show from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern with hosts Lou Tenor and Steve Davidson. We also have the DMV Sports Talk Show from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. Eastern with your host, Razul McGee.
Okay.
As well, we have the Shamrock Sports Talk Show from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern with Igor&Andy and Andy Vernon. Finally, rounding out the week, we have on Sunday, That's Not How We See It Sports Talk Show from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern with your host, Alfred Wallace, Tony Wallace, and Harold Robinson III. These shows come to you by way of the In the Zone Sports Talk Show Network, LLC. Be sure to download the Try99 TV app on any smart device and subscribe to In the Zone Sports Talk Television. The cost is $4.95. Thank you in advance for your support.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of Shamrock Sports Talk Show. In a second, you will be able to see me. I'm your host, Igor&Andy, and it is my distinct pleasure to see again my friend and longtime partner at my shows, Mr. Rich Conti. Rich, how are you doing? Thank you for joining us tonight to help me to talk about the Celtics in the last couple of weeks that we didn't have show because my partner have some obligations and I had obligations, but we are back. And Rich, what are you doing? Tell me, how are you doing tonight? Thank you. You know that I love to speak with you. So as our listeners, I think.
Likewise, Igor. Thanks for having me again. And I've been enjoying a nice Saturday evening. And what better to do than talk Celtics?
Talk Celtics. Tell me, what are you doing? I mean, what about your projects? What about the podcast that you're doing? Are you writing something? Do you have plans to publish something or not?
Not writing so much these days, but I am doing the Charleston Digital Corridor Tech Life podcast. We release episodes every 3 weeks or so, and it focuses on technology entrepreneurs, typically in the Charleston, South Carolina area. So if any of your listeners are into technology and love hearing stories about entrepreneurs, check it out. It's available on iTunes Podcast, Spotify, Google Podcasts, all of the usual places.
Thank you, Rich. I mean, let's just talk a little about the results. I thought you and I to base, to talk better than analyzing the games that are just regular season games. I thought maybe to I have some great articles that is analyzing the Celtics the last couple of years and the way the Celtics are playing, the tactics and something like this. So the Celtics defeated the last night the Knicks 133-123 after they lost from Indiana Pacers. To tell you the truth, I mean, this loss didn't upset me. I mean, all the honors to Indiana Pacers. I really hope that they will defeat the Lakers tonight, if I'm correct, 8:30 p.m. Eastern.
Yep.
I mean, they play great. Tyrese Hulliburton is spectacular, like Stephen A. Smith said. And congratulations to folks down there. They are doing the great job. But we were without Kristaps Porzingis. It is not excuse, but Kristaps Porzingis is the difference maker with the Celtics. I will expand the later talk about that. But you could see that when the Celtics are with Porzingis and when the Celtics are without Porzingis, that is not the same team, right?
Oh, clearly. I mean, we talked, I think, last time we spoke about
yes,
how
we
their
did.
top six is probably the best, six-man
in the NBA
rotation in the league. And, take one of those guys out of the equation and it's going to impact them. Their bench is still getting sorted out. And so, with Kristaps being out, I think Coach Mazzulla tried a couple of different options in the rotation to see if they could cover some of those minutes. But yeah, he's a big part of the offense. And, I think early on, he's developed a great rapport with Jaylen Brown in particular. And I think, you can see that being a missing component in those games that he was out. Those two have connected in either direction on, a lot of nice passes leading to baskets, either Porzingis to Brown or Brown to Porzingis. And so that had become a big part of their offense in the early going this season. And that was clearly missing in those games that Porzingis had to miss. I think the Celtics were fortunate that he came back as quickly as he did. Those strained calf injuries can be something that, lingers on and recurs. So keep an eye on that. And I think they were watching his minutes a little bit in last night's game. You could see they took him out of the game for a spell with about 4 minutes left. Celtics had a reasonably comfortable lead at that point, but the Knicks were still scratching and clawing, and Mazzulla took Kristaps out with about 4 minutes, I think, to keep him under that 30-minute. I think he might have been on a 30-minutes restriction, and then they brought him back in after a few minutes on the bench to help close it out. But yeah, it's they were definitely missing him. Indiana's been, I think, along with Orlando, probably the two, and Minnesota, the three biggest surprise teams so far this season, and so it didn't surprise me to
the highest scoring team.
Game. Yeah, they are
the highest scoring team. 128 points per game. Yeah. I mean, amazing. They do not play the defense. So I mean, not the strongest defense, but the offense is spectacular. Absolutely.
Well, if you remember earlier in the season, the Celtics dropped almost 150 on them in a game.
Yeah.
And you mentioned Hulliburton, and he's been one of the. I think folks last year knew he was good, but he's really taken his game to another level this year.
There is a recording on the last shows that Andy and I were talking about him. Andy scouted him, and Andy wanted him in the Celtics, but sadly, nobody listened. Nobody listened.
He was drafted 12th by Sacramento.
Yeah.
14th, and ended up, of course, with Romeo Langford. And a lot of folks think if Hulliburton had lasted, because he was, folks were talking about him as high as like 6 or 7 that year.
Yeah.
And I remember watching the draft and being surprised, as the draft got into the 10th pick, 11th pick, that he was still available. But of course, Sacramento didn't let him slide any farther. But if he had been there at 14, I think the Celtics would have scooped him up. Yeah, absolutely. And he's become probably my favorite non-Celtic player, active player in the league right now. He's just so much fun to watch.
Definitely. I mean, and often when we were talking about who should be the Celtics reserve point guard, I mean, we have a couple of names like Delon Wright or
Mm-hmm.
Tyrese Halliburton, some of them and a couple of others that would be bloomers in the league, and he's becoming the star.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's start with the article. So let's start the journey with Tatum and Brown. Let's remember 2018 playoff when the Celtics assembled one-two punch of Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum without help of main player Kyrie Irving
Mm-hmm.
because of injury. Tatum and Brown led, helped by Horford and the others, the team in the Eastern Conference Finals over the Bucks and the Sixers, who were favorites ahead of them. In the finals, the Celtics had 2-0 series lead against the Cavaliers of LeBron James, but they lost 4-3. We all remember Game 6 in Boston when LeBron scored how much? 39 something, 36. Tatum in the playoffs as a rookie, he had 18.5 points, and Brown as a sophomore, 18 points. The core of the team were Terry Rozier, Al Horford, Marcus Smart, Marcus Morris, Aaron Baines, Semi Ojeleye, and Shane Larkin, who is in the EuroLeague right now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Now there is a list of reasons why Boston from 2018 to 2023 didn't get till the end. First of all, effect of Irving and chemistry that was ruined. Tatum and Brown were young. Some of the players didn't step up the way they should step up. Then bloom of Giannis Antetokounmpo, who won the title and MVP candidate every year. Then Miami, who is always a treat. Then we lost Ime Udoka. Then the Warriors were revamped in 2022 and won the title over us. But Tatum and Brown are in their prime right now, in their strength. So the Boston has the best chance in the last 6 years to win the title this season. At the beginning of the season, they were favorites at the East and the main challengers to the Denver Nuggets. So we will see, is this year of the Celtics? Do you want to comment something about what I said? The year of 2018. It was fun to watch, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the Celtics had that one, 29 win year, I think, after the big three were broken up. But, basically beyond that, and they had a couple of fun wins even that season. But beyond that, they've
Yes,
had, a surprisingly competitive team, really, for most of
absolutely.
those intervening seasons. And, I think what you saw early with Brown and Tatum is.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Brad Stevens, anybody in the organization, really expected them to be as good as they were, as quickly as they were. Brown took
Yes,
his
yes.
first rookie season to adjust a little bit. And, the Celtics had already been assembling, a team that they felt could contend. And Brown and Tatum were almost kind of like flyers, like, hey, we've got these young guys, we got some high picks that's going to set us up well for the future, but we're building a team for now built around, Al Horford and Gordon Hayward and Kyrie Irving and lesser extent Marcus Smart, and that's the roster they were building and that they expected to compete with. And then all of a
Mm-hmm.
sudden, of course, we had the Hayward injury, and then we had Kyrie Irving was up and
Irving
down in
injury.
2018, and then in that
Mm-hmm.
playoff, Brown and Tatum really stepped up, and folks started to think
Mm,
maybe a little bit differently about these guys. I know they were both number 3 picks, but I don't know that anybody expected them to be, top 10, top 20 players, certainly, while they were in their mid 20s. And so
mm,
the timeline changed, and the direction and strategy changed really rapidly after that 2018 playoffs. And listen, I don't think they would have had much of a chance to win
mm,
in the finals against Golden State that year, but they gave Cleveland and LeBron all they could handle. And if you remember that game 7, they had a lead for a good part of that game, and then Terry Rozier, I seem to recall, had a really brutal shooting night.
Yes, Terry Scary.
Yeah,
Scary Terry, 1 of 11.
He had a good shooting game. That game might have turned out differently. And of course, folks remember the signature moment for Tatum, the dunk, in that series over LeBron. And that's when folks started to think about, wow, the course of this team is really changing. And of course, it took a while to, those guys were still young. They were 18, 19 years old. NBA players aren't really sort of battle-tested championship, quality players until 25, 26, 27, 28 even. I mean, look at how old is Jokic now? And last year was the first year he really made a dent in the playoffs. So, they've been building toward that. And I think, I understand the frustration in some ways that they've gotten close and haven't been able to get over the hump. They made it to the finals that one year, ran into a team that was a very veteran established team, had won championships before, and they weren't fully ready for that, but they were at the time 24 years old, 23 years old, and I think because those guys were so good so early, it created probably higher expectations than folks should have them. But they've built a roster. They should be able to keep it together for at least a couple of years before they have to start making some difficult financial decisions, and now's the time for those guys to shine. And they still have work to do, but for as frustrating as folks were with the Indiana loss, and there have been a couple other losses this season, I mean, they're a game behind for the best record in the NBA. They've got the best point differential in the NBA. They've got the most wins. They've got the best record against teams
home
over
record.
500. They're 10-0 at home. They've played the fewest home games of any team. So they've actually played a kind of a tough schedule to start
Great season.
Far. So they're off to a good start. But that said, they still have they have things they still need to figure out. And so hopefully they don't see too many injuries, and the team has enough time to play together to figure those things out. They've shown for stretches, they can be elite offensively. They've shown for stretches they can be elite defensively. They just need to, continue to put it together and become more and more consistent at that.
Okay, about 2018, maybe if we had just Kyrie Irving instead of Terry Rozier, that game maybe we will defeat the Lakers, but the Cavaliers. But never mind. LeBron is at Lakers. That's why I translated to the Lakers. Now let's return to the 2022 year. After the loss from Golden State 2022 and Miami 2023, the management of Boston had become clear that the same book can be read the third time in the row, but the end will be the same probably. So the GM of the Celtics, Brad Stevens, made serious facelifting, some cuts. For example, Smart, who was the heart and soul of the team, he was traded to Memphis. Grant Williams should have become the Smart successor in Boston because of his game playing, grit, grind, defense, and three-point shooting. But the Stevens didn't give him the contract, so Grant Williams was traded to Dallas. The other Williams, Robert, injury prone, one of the best defensive centers in the league, he was traded to Portland. So Malcolm Brogdon, who was the sixth man of the year, he was traded as well. Now we got Kristaps Porzingis. He was in theory the replacement for rim protection of Robert Williams and threes of Grant Williams. Also for Smart, we got Jrue Holiday. Jrue Holiday, in theory, he should be the replacement for playmaking of Marcus Smart and points of Malcolm Brogdon. So, but on the paper, Boston lost 4 players and they got 2 players. So we sacrificed roster depth a little, which is the problem right now a little. And the Stevens did it because Miami outplayed them in the conference finals the last year. And Stevens was the coach of the Boston from 2013 to 2021. So he developed and trained majority of the players, and he knows how each of the players is acting in the locker room, how they are breathing together, which profiles of players are required for Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown to be in the maximum position, in the position to maximize their potential. So Brad Stevens didn't get the title as a coach, but I think that he is at the good place to win the title as GM. Now, the starting results were great. In the first 19 games, I'm counting this article, the team was 15-4. Right now, the second place at the Eastern at the whole league. We have the ninth best offense in the league and the second best defense in the league. The best point differential plus 10.1 in 100 possessions. And the roles of the team didn't change too much. Tatum Brown, the first and second option, 1-2 punch. They are using around 30% of usage rate, 30% of offense of the Celtics when they are on the floor. Now, Porzingis is the third option, and he made the biggest compromise because in Washington, he had usage rate of 27, in Boston, 22nd. So Porzingis is option number 3. Holiday, Derrick White, they are rounding the starting 5, and they are good in the roles of defensive guards and two-way players. So coach Joe Mazzulla is milking the starting 5 as much as it is possible. The starting 5 is having around 30 to 36 minutes per game, and from the bench is not the deepest in the NBA. The sixth man is Al Horford in glue guy role, and Sam Hauser, who is 3-and-D specialist and one of the best three-point shooters in the NBA, he's becoming. And we can mention Peyton Pritchard, and this is the thin rotation of the team. I will stop there. How do you like my description, and do you have something to add, of course?
Yeah, I think that was pretty comprehensive. I think like I mentioned earlier, they need time together to continue to grow and become more consistent. And Holiday missed a few games, and of course Porzingis missed a couple of games. So maybe going a little bit slower, but yeah, clearly Tatum is the leader. With Brown sort of that secondary scorer. Porzingis, as you mentioned, sort of sacrificed a little bit of his offensive role, but certainly gives them another big option alongside Brown. I mean, we're seeing it now in close games in the fourth quarter. Teams are running two guys at Tatum and blitzing and forcing the ball out of his hands. So you need a couple of options. It can't all be on Brown. Now I think they've got a good balance where they've got ball movers in White and Holiday. So if Tatum does make a pass, they can break down the defense with another pass, and then you've got two elite scorers in Brown and Porzingis. To hopefully give them that balance, and hopefully over time they hurt teams enough with that'll create a little bit more freedom down the stretches of the game for Tatum, where they realize they can't just double him and because there's nobody else you can really play off of.
Okay, we are continuing. So the most important for Boston is the fact that the starting 5 get their chemistry together really quick, because Holiday and Porzingis they didn't need much time to fit together with Tatum, Brown, and White. And Tatum, Brown, and White accepted Porzingis and Holiday really quick. So Stevens had a hit there. The starting 5, literally, when they're on the floor, destroying opponents together. They together played in the first 19 games, 11 games together, and they have 10-1 score together. They are scoring together, the starting five, 123 points per 100 possession. They are allowing 96.8 points per 100 possession. How powerful is that? So to describe how powerful they are, let's say that Indiana is the best offense of the league. I think that right now they are 128 points per 100 possession, and in the first 19 games, Indiana had like 124 points per 100 possession, and the Celtics starting five 123. They are right there. And Timberwolves, the best defense in the league, 107.4 points per 100 possession. And our starting five is having better defense than the best defense in the league. So that is 10.6 points better. The Timberwolves are allowing 10.6 points more than the starting five of the Celts. So before the season, everybody focused how the offense of Boston will look like and what benefits Kristaps Porzingis will bring to Jayson and Jalen. But the defense is the fuel that the Celtics are using and running on right now. Because when you have Holiday and White, defensive guards, they are at so-called point of attack defense. Tatum is the help line defense. Porzingis is rim protection with drop coverage. Brown, you can hide Brown at the weakest offensive player or the opponent, and you have the defense like hard as a rock. Only Minnesota better defense than the Celtics, but there are two different types of defenses and rosters, because the Wolves are playing with the two bigs players, I think, and they are using Rudy Gobert as the main defender. But Boston is switching everything in the defense. They are playing the small lineup. Tatum is practically playing the four power forward, and everybody is playing the position high. For example, Holiday is playing position 4 in the defense. And one more thing, I don't think that there is the player in the league who had more defensive tasks and systematic and individually tasks than Holiday. Holiday is earning his salary, and he's showing why he's brought to Boston. His defensive versatility is fantastic. You should, for example, stop the defensive point guard. Holiday can do it. You can run for the guards through the blocks. For opponent's shooter, Holiday can do it. You can switch and you can defend the threes in the isolations. Holiday can do it. And you can defend the power forwards. Holiday can do it. And the story has the continuation, because Mazzulla put Giroux as primary defender to 4s and 5s against the Knicks and Bucks. He defended successfully Julius Randle and Giannis Antetokounmpo. Against the Sixers, Mazzulla put Holiday at Joel Embiid, and Giroux did it. So I think that is fantastic. Don't you think?
Yeah, I agree. A lot of times back there, you're talking about Giroux, Holiday, and his defensive flexibility. That was something that the Celtics had built quite a bit of their defense around when Marcus Smart was here. If you remember, they were not afraid to switch him onto bigs. Matter of fact, they encouraged it and to try to get the opponent out of their own offense and comfort zone, try to force them to or tempt them into trying to attack Smart in the post, where he was able to, with his strength, hold his own against much bigger players. And Holiday is very similar. And so, I think the Celtics were really fortunate. They traded away, if you remember the Porzingis trade, they traded away Smart. The rumors leading up to that was originally the deal was going to send Brogdon away, and the Clippers balked at the last minute, so they switched, and they really wanted Porzingis. They sacrificed Smart in that deal, and so they were very fortunate that Holiday came on the market as a result of Damian Lillard landing in Milwaukee. And so it's funny how things work out. The Celtics were able to go out and grab Holiday and plug him in seamlessly, and it's such a great fit with him there because he can gives them the flexibility, and then both he and White give them, you mentioned it earlier, that point of attack defense and their ability to get in there and disrupt the team's offense right from the get-go. And it's just been such a great fit there with Holiday. You were also mentioning the Celtics starting five. I think if you go on NBA.com, there's stats that show top 3-man and 4-man lineups across the league by point differential or net rating, excuse me. And, the list, at least as of earlier this week, the Celtics were in, it was Celtics combinations that were like 5 of the top 6 or 6 of the top 7. And interestingly, they all seem to have one common denominator, Derrick White. Tatum was on like out of the like 5 or 6 combinations that showed up in the top, 6 or 7 of the league. Tatum was in like 3 of them. Brown was in like 2 or 3 of them. Porzingis was in 3 of them. Holiday was in 2 of them. But White was in every single one. And I think folks underestimate just how valuable, his two-way all-around play is, but B, just his ability to fit into whatever role is needed at any moment and just be that glue guy. His basketball IQ is off the charts. He can really do anything that's asked of him, and he just lets the game come to him offensively. He had 30 points last night, a big night for him, and it never felt like he forced a shot, or it never felt like he said, okay, this possession I'm going to go get mine. He just took what the game gave him and, had a big night. And next game, maybe he has 8 points, but he's still going to make just as big of an impact. So the Celtics are extremely fortunate a couple of years ago to bring White in. Again, you talked about earlier how Brad Stevens had developed most of the team. And so they had a core, aside from, say, Horford, they had a core that was really – Brad Stevens guys. And I think when he took over the president and GM role, I think he intentionally wanted to go and see if he could bring some other types of players in that maybe hadn't had or didn't have the same imprint of Stevens on them as a way of sort of, expanding the team's horizons and future. And he did that with White. And then, of course, this offseason with both Porzingis and Holiday. And so, they coming out of last season, the easiest thing for them to do would have been say, let's run it back. We got hit with some bad luck. We made it to the finals the year before. We were, we built a huge hole or dug a huge hole for ourselves in that series against Miami last year in the Eastern Conference Finals. They almost came all the way back. Tatum rolled his ankle in the beginning of Game 7, and that was that. Easiest thing for Stevens to do would have just been to let's run it back and see where the chips fall, and maybe we get a little bit of better luck this year. But no, he stayed aggressive. He wasn't afraid to deal pieces of the core and drastically reshape the roster while keeping the strategy, the focus still the same. It's going to be a Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown team. We have to put the right pieces around them. We're going to play good defense. We're going to play, modern offense. We're going to, so they didn't drastically change the teams, but they seem to, possibly have found an even better mix around Tatum and Brown. And so we'll see how the rest of the season plays out.
Well, I was talking in the show that, Andy and I were talking about, Andy was for running it back and I was for changing the core. And I was talking everybody except Tatum and Brown and Stevens listened to me kind of, and I'm happy. I was excited before the season and I'm still excited about. Anyway, let's continue about the Holiday. Holiday is, the soldier of the team. The coach Mazzulla's idea that he could use Holiday as a guard who can guard on the defense the opponent's high players is not product of some avant-garde thinking or something revolutionary, but the Celtics needed Holiday on Giannis and Randle and then Embiid, because that is the Celtics need. If Holiday didn't guard Giannis's guard should be Tatum, and then Tatum would be without fuel on the offense. If Holiday didn't guard Embiid, Embiid should be guarded by Porzingis. Porzingis then could not play the effective offense, and so Holiday, I think he should be personally in the run for Defensive Player of the Year alongside White, but whatever. So when you have 5 good to elite defensive players, it is not hard to put together the elite defense as a whole. Look at the numbers are telling us that the Celtics are using, I mean, they are having the defensive identity and building the defensive identity on the control of the rim. Of the rim control, rim protection. So only 29% of the offensive shoots are attempts at the rim, and the opponents are only shooting 59% successfully at the rim, and that is second best in the league. Rim protection defense, second best in the league. Only 29% of opponents shoots at the rim, and they're successfully scoring 59% of the rim shoots. Besides Holiday, White, and Tatum, it is hard to get to the rim, and when they got to the rim, Porzingis and Horford are defending the rim. Boston is good in defensive tasks. Number 1, they are controlling the defensive rebounds. Number 2, they are having the second fewest fouls on the shoot. They are having good foul selection. And number 3, they are having the good transitional defense. When we got together to the 3 components, to the 3 successful components of the defense, we can say that they are the 9th best defense of the 3-point line. And you see that this is the defense that will stay. If we are healthy, that defense will be good in the playoffs as well. Do you want to add something before I continue?
Yeah, you mentioned the rim protection, and clearly that's been their strength on defense this year. I think that you mentioned defensive identity. I think they do want to get back to that. I think there was a feeling that in the change from Udoka to Mazzulla last year, they lost a little bit of that. And I think Mazzulla would be the first to admit that one of his focuses coming into his first season as a coach was to really optimize the offense from where it was, because you remember that series against Golden State the previous year in the finals, and really even in the Eastern Conference Finals that year against Miami, when the team struggled, it was offensively. And so I think he felt like he needed to put some focus on it, but they slipped on the defensive end last year, and I think they're trying to get that back. And it's a very similar defense that the one they played before, but now you look at it and you've got Porzingis is an elite shot blocker. Holiday and White are probably the 2 best shot blocking guards in the league right now. And then you have Tatum is a good shot blocker and a tremendous defender, and Brown has shown the ability to be a good defender. So they're fast, they're tough, they protect the rim. And Brown is
there. Brown is there, the weakest link at the defense, which is laughable, right?
Yeah. And, I think with Tatum, Brown, and Porzingis, and of course, Holiday and White aren't, slouches when it comes to offense as well. They're going to have enough offense to score a team. So if they can consistently play the type of defense, particularly that they did in 2021, again, it's a different team and different strengths, but if they can play that type of defense, they're going to be tough to beat at the end of the year. So, we'll see.
Let's continue about the other part of the floor. So they are saying that the defenses are winning the titles, but in the finals against the Warriors and Miami, we missed the points and offensive rhythm. So chemistry and coexistence of Tatum and Brown as a whole, as a whole period in the Celts is the main topic of discussions. Then when you added Irving and Smart, it was the trouble, the question mark, and the trouble because of offensive hierarchy and shoot selection and offensive flow as a whole. Boston had around ninth best offense in the league, but the last 2 weeks it is like 22nd in the league offense, which is diminishing a little, but it is not nothing worrisome. When Udoka took the team in 2021, Missoula replaced him after 1 year. Boston in Udoka. They based the offense in the 5-out system or 5 open formation. So this is the system, like the name is saying, in which the 5 players are standing at the perimeter, and each player is the 3-point shooting threat. So Boston is exactly like that. They are shooting 3-point shooting threat and 3-point shooting team. Missoula is saying that we should shoot as much open threes as we can. In the team, we have 5 players that are shooting threes 36% and more. Only Brown is 35%, if I'm correct, and Porzingis the last 2 weeks 32%, but he is decent shooter. Beside that, Boston is elite catch and shoot team, and they have elite realization from the spot up shoots. Just to clarify the difference between 5-out 5-out offense and 5-out formation of Boston. I mean, this is 5-out formation Boston is playing, is different from 5-out concept from Boston that is just partly playing. So in 5 open formation, 5-out system or concept, every team cannot play that. In this concept, 5-out, you must have 5 players that can shoot the threes, that can dribble, that can assist, and that can attack the closeouts, and that can move good without the ball. And the accent is, attacking the closeouts and moving without the ball. Why? Because the point of 5-out concept is exactly the middle space, the open space that you can attack and effectively made a point, not shooting the threes. So this is the point of 5-out concept, and the people do not understand that. So shooting at the rim is, besides the free throws, still the most efficient shoot in the basketball. So 5-out system is offering the teams exactly like that, shooting at the rim and as much shoots at the rim as we can. Boston is having 5 players that can shoot, that can dribble, move without the ball, and made assist. And this is the reason why offense is top 10. And looking at the players, looking at how we are playing, I think that we should attack the closeouts more often in this system. I will not expand later, but just want to hear your observations about 5-out concept or formation.
Yeah, it's interesting. A lot of fans, you see it on social media and whatnot, but, anytime there's a loss, the tendency is to blame, the style of offense and the number of threes. But I think you did a good job of explaining kind of what the idea is. It isn't just to shoot threes, right? It's to, create room for your greatest, your best players, guys like Tatum and Brown, to gap space, go to the basket. Like, we all remember watching the game in the 90s when, granted, the rules, were a little bit different, and it certainly was coached different, but you didn't, teams hadn't at that point evolved to really lean into the three. And what happened was you had teams who were just packing the paint with 5 guys and impeding any kind of movement. And you were getting scores in the playoffs in the 70s regularly, right? And so the game has evolved since then. Largely, Golden State, played a big role in that. But the idea is to spread the floor as much as possible to create those driving lanes.
Just look at Indiana. Look at Indiana.
And it's all about getting getting those paint touches, as Brad Stevens likes to call them, getting the ball into the paint and getting the defense to then react. So like you said, so you need 5 guys that can be threats from the outside. They have that now. You need 5 guys who can pass the ball. They have that now, right? And you need the willingness to be able to attack the defense, get it rotating, spray the passes out either for open threes or, like you said, to attack the closeouts and create more movement. When it breaks down, is you see the Celtics tend to have trouble offensively with teams that get really physical with them and get up in their airspace. And so what's happening is if you're not prepared for that and you're not either sort of passing out of the double, before it even gets there, you're not getting that initial sort of break into the defense. So the defense isn't rotating, right? And so that's when you get a lot of what seems like too many threes or, taking threes that are contested and missing them because they're not getting that initial thrust into the paint to break down the defense, get it to collapse, get folks moving, and that's what you get the outside shot. When the offense is playing well, that's when you see guys like Hauser really light up, right? Because he's the beneficiary of the defense is scrambling, rotating around. He's left open for an instant. Tatum or Pritchard or whoever will find him, and he's got such a quick release and is such a tremendous shooter that it's right in his comfort zone and the threes drop. It's when that's not happening is when they're not getting that sort of initial break down the defense moment, get into the paint and start passing it around, and that's when the offense bogs down because then it becomes either a secondary play like a pick and roll, or worse, it starts to turn into isolation ball where Tatum or Brown will try to take matters into their own hand and beat 2 defenders, or just if they don't get a hard double, they settle for an outside shot without passing, seeing an offensive possession when there aren't at least a couple of passes always feels like a waste. Yes, they've got so much talent that sometimes, they'll still score on those possessions, but you want to see them moving the ball around because they're so talented, 1 through 6 on that team that you get a defense moving and they're just going to end up making them pay more often than not.
Okay, I will try to explain a couple of examples from Raptors game how 5-out system is working in Boston. For example, against the Raptors, you could see the action. I mean, the starting 5. Let's say it is not important who is there, like Tatum, Brown, Porzingis, White, and who is there? Holiday. So Holiday and Porzingis, they're starting at the top of the perimeter, like pick and roll. Porzingis is making block for Holiday. So corners are fulfilled with the shooters, and Raptors are sending one player to Tatum, one player to Brown at the corner. White is at position number 2. So the player must okay, apologize, I disappeared for a moment. So the player must follow, Porzingis at the top. So you can see that there is in the middle of the paint the square that is empty for attacking the closeouts. So the intention here, Porzingis and Brown to play the handoff. And we saw OG Anunoby stepping out to Brown really high, and he is trying to to stop the handoff. But Brown, instead of handoff, he's running besides Porzingis, and he's attacking the open space. The Raptors must guard the shooters, and what is happening? Porzingis is getting the ball to Brown, and Brown is dunking. This is the open points, the clear dunk. So this is how this is functioning, not the shooting threes, but attacking the open space. And another concept, for example, Porzingis is having the ball at the top of the key. Boston is again in 5-out concept. Porzingis is making the decision of the offense. This time, at the left side, you have isolation for Porzingis and Brown. So Toronto is doubling team, is trying to aggressively with OG Anunoby to separate Brown from the ball. But Brown is using this for smart backdoor cut, and Porzingis is getting him the ball just like playmaker. And again, the easy basket. And in the moment of getting the ball, you can see where the help line of the Raptors was. The help line of the Raptors could not help to Brown because they were busy over helping to Tatum and White. Why? Because Tatum and White, they are shooting threes 36% or 40%. And this is the example how you're using 5-out concept if you're having the right players. What is the problem with this concept 5-out formation? Well, Boston is sometimes using the beneficiary things from 5-out formation only for shooting threes, and they are not attacking the paint too much or the rim. The numbers are showing this. 44% of all shoots in Boston are threes. They are first in the league. Boston is sixth in the league in pull-up jumpers, and etc. etc. They are very efficient in this action, but the Celtics are fourth team in the league out of isolation offense, isolation attacks. Fourth team in the league. On the other side, we have only 30% shoots on the rim, and they are 23rd in the league. 30% shoots at the rim, 23rd in the league. Besides this, they are second worst in the league for attacking closeouts, 21st in the league in so-called paint touches, 21st in the league in paint touches. So I describe action of Porzingis for Brown. Their rarity, only 59% of the points of the Celtics is assisted, and we are 24th in the league. And we are third worst team in a number of assists. So these are some areas in which we can work on the offense that I mentioned. Don't you think?
Yeah, totally agree. And like I said, that becomes a function of playing together over the course of the season, starting to learn each other, starting to trust each other more. I think you're seeing probably more one-on-one isolation ball than we'd like. I think some of it has been, something that they did in the past with a guy like Smart, but you can see sometimes when the offense bogs down, they'll actually send Jrue Holiday into the post against the guard, and he's a great sort of low post scorer for a guard. So they're still sort of finding their way. I would expect to see the number of paint touches. I would expect to see the percentage of assisted baskets. I would expect to see the number of assists, see them climb up those lists, as we get into mid-season and into February.
Okay, we're closing to the end. We'll try to finish my observations. Boston's offense will roll over to the regular season, I'm sure, because we have too much talent. Tatum is playing the MVP legit candidate season as well, top 3, top 4, whatever. Luka Doncic, Giannis Antetokounmpo, who is there? Jokic, Luka Doncic, Tatum is there, Antetokounmpo, Embiid, whoever. Tatum is playing MVP season. Porzingis is efficient in third role option. Brown is having explosions. The threes are falling in for White, Hauser, and Horford. Shoot is good. They're scoring well from the isolation and post-ups. They are good in attacking mismatches. Brown and Porzingis having good chemistry and together actions in which they're using actions screen the screeners. So Boston is the team that diminish attempts from the half distance, from mid-range jumpers. They are, having good rhythm in the offense. They are using very smart 5-out spacing when the opponents is playing stunt or next defense on Porzingis. We are using 5-out spacing. The Boston is having good actions for Hauser when Hauser is having block for Tatum, and they have various options for the shoots. They are very active on the offensive rebound. Boston is having good tools for the regular season, but the problem will be will they have the tools for the trophy? Tatum and Brown still are having problems out of isolations. They are stuck in isolation sometimes. The ball is stuck too much on the offense, and when the shoot is stopping, we have problems. We don't shoot free throws enough, and we're not attacking rim enough. Those are bad habits, but that's tandem of Brown and Tatum still finding their rhythm. Tatum is untouchable. He's first option at the team, but Brown is having question mark as a second option, but Porzingis is making life easier for Brown. But the thing is, Brown and his expansion in the offense, that is going to be interesting to looking like. Porzingis in the offense, he will add the points, of course, but Boston get Brown, the contract, and the eyes are open in Brown as second option. So what do you think about Brown as a second option, and will he be a good passer? Will he improve the ball handling and assist in the offense, creation for the others?
Yeah, I think he's still a little too much, wants to prove that he can be that number one scorer, number one, guy, even though sort of like a 1A to Tatum's number one. And of course, the big contract, he's got the money now. I'd almost like to see him, and I can see where some folks might have a little bit of frustration at this, but he's got his money now, right? He got that big contract. He's got the security that he wanted, the stability he wanted. One thing he could do is say, you know what, I'm going to focus on more on defense than on sort of being a number one guy offensively, and let the points come to him. I mean, he can still score in bunches, focusing defensively, getting out in transition. He might be, LeBron sort of at his advanced age is obviously still a contender for this, but Brown might be the best, if not sort of top 3 transition players in the league. He's simply unstoppable when he gets out on the break. And so, focus on defense, running the floor, let the points come to him and make an impact and help put this team over the top. That's a direction, at least for this season, I would like to see him go in a little bit more. But again, they're still finding their way. They're still figuring out their roles. So, it is painful, like I mentioned earlier, to watch a possession where, and I'm not just pointing fingers at Brown, other guys have done this, but Brown seems to be the one to do it most frequently, come down and put up a shot without, the ball hitting somebody else's hands, right? You want to see a little bit more ball movement than that. And you want a guy that's, certainly even at that money, showing that he's unselfish. And, I think, Tatum still has some things to grow in his game, but I think one thing that he's learned is, he has to be a willing passer, or it's just going to make the game harder and harder for him. So you've seen that the past couple of seasons. I think Brown needs to do a little bit more of that and not worry so much about, sort of getting the ball and his usage rate and being a center point of the offense. They've got enough offense. He can impact ways. I mean, who's the classic number 2 in NBA history, right? Is probably Scottie Pippen. And, he did played a big role in distributing the ball and facilitating the offense, but he didn't look for his own offense really all that much. He was, he generated a lot of baskets for himself out of transition, played tremendous defense, and, was a facilitator. And, I'd like to see Brown maybe do a little bit of that. He's not Scottie Pippen. I think in many ways he's sort of the next generation Dominique Wilkins, but I'd like to see him add a little bit more Pippen to his game.
We are not going to criticize Brown, but we are expecting this to him to make a step up. Anyway, we're expecting the title, and I have one task for Stevens for the end to make roster depth. Now, these days, the people are, the rumors are that Griffin could return. Personally, I'm not for that solution, and I think that the Stevens should look for the trades, everybody except top 6 players, if you ask me, with picks, and to find one or two guys to help us to win the title and to expand the rotation in the playoffs. Ideally, would be like adding 2 guys, keeping the top six players, like backup center, shooter from the bench, whatever. So do you agree, and do you think that the Celtics will make the trade? That will be like the last question.
I mean, if Stevens has shown us anything in his tenure as president and GM, it's that he's not afraid to make a move, that he's going to be aggressive. He's going to go after it. You talked about trades as they've got a couple of trade exceptions, which you can't couple with another player, but you can send out picks and they still have some picks they can use. And don't underestimate the buyout market. Every January and early February, there are quality veterans that are on teams that aren't going anywhere, that they buy them out, and those guys are often willing to sign for veteran minimums with teams that have a chance to win, and Celtics are surely in that category. So I would expect to see them pick up at least one guy that will at least be an option in the playoff
rotational players.
And more than that, it really depends on the opportunities that are out there.
Okay. That is the question mark that the Celtics fans are discussing the most. The reserve center, the trades, whatever. Like every year. Anyway, I think so. That's it from the show. I don't want to hold you any further. I personally enjoyed. This was not classical analysis of the results, but this was discussing of the Boston development and the concept of the offense and the defense in the last 6 years. I hope that the show was fun for you as much as it was fun for me.
Absolutely. Yeah, I always enjoy talking with you, Igor.
I hope that the people learn something, because this is not like, I didn't want this to be, because you're a very knowledgeable guy, I didn't want this to be like crying over a result in the regular season. This is laughable. Again, I'm not putting emphasis in the results in the first 20 games of the regular season. Absolutely not, or even 30. After the All-Star break, then we are looking at the standings, we are looking at the plays, we are looking at what is wrong, what is right, but before that, absolutely not. Anyway, Rich, always pleasure to talk with you. For the end, do you want to make an announcement about your future projects?
I think we covered it at the top. Look for the Charleston Digital Corridor CBC Tech Live podcast with Rich Conti on iTunes, Google Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you find your podcasts. That's the big project right now.
Okay, I will call you when you have time to speak with you. I always love speaking with you, and thank you for helping me do this show. We will advertise it. We are in the Zone Sports Talk Radio. This is Mr. Rich Conti. Find him at Facebook and at Twitter at Rich Conti. Find his Tech and Live podcast. The man is amazing. And thank you again, and have a good night, and speak soon. Thank you again.
Bye-bye.
So bye-bye. That was our guest. That was Richard Conti from Tech and Live podcast, longtime Celtics fan and our good friend and associate in my shows for years. I'm Igor Mitic. Hopefully, Andy will be with us the next Saturday. The show is every Saturday, 7 p.m. Eastern. Go Celtics, and stay with us.
Thank you for listening to the Shamrock Sports Talk Show. We're here every Saturday from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We are the best 4-leaf lucky show in the area. This show comes to you by way of the In the Zone Sports Talk Show Network, LLC. And be sure to download the Try99 TV app on any smart device and subscribe to In the Zone Sports Talk Television. The cost is $4.95. Thank you in advance for your support. Thank you for listening to the Shamrock Sports Talk Show. We're here every Saturday from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. Hello, and thank you for tuning in to the In the Zone Sports Talk Show Network, LLC, where you can find the best in sports talk television and radio shows. Mondays, check out the Just Us Sports Talk Show from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with your hosts, Kevin L. Dixon and Dana Clark. Then Tuesday, we have the Stars Talking Cowboys Sports Show from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern with your hosts, Sean Fox, K Boogie, and Cowboys Nikki. And on Wednesday, tune in for the Out the Block Sports Talk Show from 8:30 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with hosts Robert Lewis, Donna Hainsworth, and Brett Shields. Then meet up with us on Saturday for the Enhanced Sports Talk Show from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern with hosts Lou Tenor and Steve Davidson. We also have the DMV Sports Talk Show from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. Eastern with your host, Razul McGee. As well, we have the Shamrock Sports Talk Show from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern with Igor Mitic and Andy Vernon. Finally, rounding out the week, we have on Sunday, That's Not How We See It Sports Talk Show from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern with your host, Alfred Wallace, Tony Wallace, and Harold Robinson III. These shows come to you by way of the In the Zone Sports Talk Show Network, LLC. Be sure to download the Try99 TV app on any smart device and subscribe to In the Zone Sports Talk Television. The cost is $4.95. Thank you in advance for your support.